questions?
Sure. I don't know if I'm going to give the answers, but yes, sir.
How can we introduce to the hospital I work at this training program?
Well, I think you would basically go to the HeartMath.com website, look at what's there, look at it a little bit and study it, maybe print something out and show it to the people that are involved in training in your hospital and have them make contact with our people. There's phone numbers all there. They can call and get more information. These type of things don't happen because of a website. They happen because of a dialogue and understanding, presentations and things like that. But we have staff that does nothing but hospital training.
Right. But I know, for me personally, my flight and pipe is going 12 hours in a row, and it does affect my body.
Absolutely.
And even though I do meditation, I do Reiki and other stuff, there is certain times when it's overwhelming. So
I understand. Well, we try to help people in hospitals that have that kind of pressure to better deal with it, and we've been very effective at it, actually. We've been very strong.
Thank you. Yeah, Lindsay.
Would you describe, or if you can share the information, in the care room, when you go to Global Coherence Initiative and as a member you go into the care room and do one of the meditations, what event have you had that has showed the most response and that you've actually gotten statistics that it's been a really meaningful spike on the energy scale on the planet?
Well, we can't see that energy spike yet. That was what I was alluding to earlier. You're not going to see anything like that now. There are ways in which it's attempted to be measured. There's nothing empirical existing now that's actually showing that. So that there's no correlation to that really that anybody can make, including us. But we see every month, well, let me put it this way. One of the primary things that we like Global Coherence members to do is when we have a need or a call, is to be able to start directing some of their heart-focused care and attention to something specific. Now, it's obvious we could put something out every hour because there's that many problems, so we made a choice not to do that because it would simply water down over time. Too many of these care-focused, things coming out, people just begin to ignore them. So if something big comes up, we'll call the shot right then and say, this needs some heart right now, some major, major situation. Like the tsunami or something like that, or terrorist attack or something. We'll go right straight to it, and it'll go out that day. But most of the time what we do is we sort of pace it over the month. So every month we have a care focus that we'll put out around the time period of the full moon. And we'll look at planetary situations and events, and we'll do that. Right after we put that care focus out, for the days after that, we generally, just because there was an email communication for one thing, we'll see more and more people in the global care room. But correlation to anything scientific about that is not possible now. I mean, one of the things that people have looked at is the random number generators. Dr. Roger Nelson, Prince's thing. He's on our scientific advisory boards. We know him well. He's an associate and a supporter. His technology showed all kinds of interesting changes occurring to planetary events. The problem with it is that nobody knows why these random number generators change. There's no understanding of how this could be possible, so it leaves a gap. Even though the evidence is interesting and the patterns are they defy logic, there's still that gap between what could make a computer change and how could that happen. So that's one measurement that's there, but there's no measurement that I'm aware of anywhere that's showing these type of changes. That's what we're creating. It's part of our responsibility and role, but as I said earlier, it's not trivial. It's a non-trivial science. It's going to take some time.
Thank you.
Yes.
How are your sensors you're putting out now different from the sensors that was used to detect the effect on 9/11? Because that was
what you saw on those graphs is satellites, okay. Space weather satellites. They're the ones that are, the government has. They're looking at what's called generically space weather, solar winds, solar radiation, cosmic radiation, those kind of things. They're out into space in geosynchronous orbits. They're also looking back at the general power spectrum within the geomagnetic field. So what you saw then was a satellite view of that, of what they're detecting, and the amplitude within the frequency range of the geomagnetic field. What we're doing is a ground-based system.
But the same geomagnetic field, you're measuring the same field?
Measuring the same field in a different way from the ground, from right on Earth, as opposed to looking back at an effect from outer space. They're both valid. I mean, when we look at data, we're looking at our own data, we're looking at data from the random number generator data. We have those in every sensor site. There's one in there. And we're also looking at the National Oceanographic and Aeronautic Administration data, which any of us can see online. It's published every day. So we're looking at all 3 data sets. So if you begin to see the complexity of what we're talking about, correlating all that information and data to come up with a coherent picture of what's going on requires a lot of data analysis, to look at a random event of some kind and determine what caused it or what was there. But it's that data, satellite data, we're looking at ground-based data. Yeah.
Yeah, between telling somebody, I work with a hospital also, between telling somebody my experiences of HeartMath and telling them to go to the website and having one of your trained people come out to the hospital, there needs to be a bridge the gap type of a thing where I maybe make a little presentation or I do something like that. Do you have any parameters on what I can or can't do along those lines?
Yeah, sure. Anybody can report on HeartMath. Meaning, that you can report on what we do. There's public domain information about our science that can be reported on, that kind of thing. What we have to protect is teaching HeartMath and using the HeartMath brand or using the trademark techniques. It's real simple the way I explain it to people. If it's got an R, a TM, or a C beside it, you can't use it. If it doesn't, you can. And those are the things we have to hold as value within our what's called intellectual property. But people all over the world, as we're speaking today, there's people all over the world somewhere that are doing exactly that. They're talking about HeartMath in some formal context. And so there's plenty of information that's generally available to the public to do that with. And you just look on the websites and talk about what we do. And if there's a strong interest in your hospital or whatever, then there needs to be a dialogue with our professionals and the team at your hospital that handles that type of thing. The main thing to identify, I would say, is need, and the ability to act upon need. I mean, some hospitals, I didn't say the other side of why we train in hospitals. Some say, look, we don't have a major stress problem. What we have is, we'd like to improve our ability to execute on patient care. We want to be better at what we do. It's not that we're having a problem with what we do. We just want to be really good at it. And we found that some hospitals are not bringing us in to reduce stress. They're bringing us in to increase care. So it can go either way around that. And so getting the need understood that the hospital may have and matching it with our professionals who can talk to this even much better than I can is an important step to build that bridge and dialogue.
One more question. Does anyone have a question? Yes, sir.
It doesn't seem like it, but is there any way your work with the military could get us out of Afghanistan?
Well, I think the work we're all doing with the military can help get us out of Afghanistan. It's a consciousness field thing. Obviously, that's very complex too. My compassion for leaders in our government, for example, would be they may see these things very clearly, and they may have angst over it. They may have a lot going on inside themselves about these situations, but they're so big and so complex that they can't just make decisions within the context of that system that would even resonate with what they really want to do, because the systems themselves are so big and complicated. But I think the heart and care we put out towards any of these situations in the world that we can see that need to go through change, that always helps. That facilitates things. It's working at it again from the consciousness field down so that these solutions can emerge. We can begin to change some behaviors and solve some problems that we can clearly see and accelerate the change. I mean, the shifts, as I say, are going to go down. The timing of the shift, it's hard to say. And part of the reason for that, especially in regards to us, the human species, is that one of the things that we are influencing and controlling is the clock. Our choices have a lot to do with the speed of change. And it's our individual choices that count the most, and then our collective choices all brought together that begin to draw and pull in what's going to happen next. But we're calling the shots on that more than we realize in a co-creative process. So the bigger picture things we have little control over, certain things we really do. And getting out of Afghanistan or beginning to de-escalate our warring nature and all that is something that I think that that people like yourselves are already doing a good job of helping with. And now we have to, again, let it have its time to play out and let this new world begin to emerge in the open.
That sounds wonderful. Well, Howard, thank you again so much for being here today. You're such an inspiration, and thank you for all the work that you've brought forth, all the gifts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlotte.
And thank you all for being here.
Okay.